Well, hello everyone, Texie88 here and welcome to another review. And now I'm taking a look at the Commodore Amiga version of Irem's classic arcade game R-Type. Now this, as you can see down there, the Amiga version was developed by Factor 5 and produced by Rainbow Arts. Although there's a and with this title music by Chris Hilsbeck. And now there's actually an interesting story behind how Factor 5 came to be the ones to do this Amiga port of R-Type. In 1987, they had released a game called Catechis on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga. Now that had that was very similar to R-Type, and it was pretty obvious similarity if you just watch footage of Catechis. And as a result, Activision Europe would have taken legal action against Factor 5 for copyright infringement unless they agreed to do an official R-Type conversion for the Amiga. As you probably guessed, they took the latter approach, and this is the result. So that's the backstory about how this came to be. Anyone who's seen my reviews of the Spectrum and Amstrad versions will know what kind of game it is. It's a horizontally scrolling shooter. But about enough of that, let's get the actual game going. Well, for the first thing I've noticed, you don't seem to get as many lives as you do in the Spectrum and Amstrad versions, which are shown in the bottom left corner there. And doesn't seem to be any sound. The music's good. Oh, now there's sound. I wonder why there was no sound in that beginning bit. Were they afraid it would interfere with the 4-channel limitation? Who knows? But at least we've got sound now. And this caters for second button controllers. And you can build up the beam just like you could in the original arcade version. Yeah, so far this is looking really good. Yeah, I'm really impressed with it. It plays really well. That was my fault. I haven't got my Pro/Force thing this time. Oh! But as with the other versions, it's balls hard. But then I guess it wouldn't be R-Type unless it was balls hard. I don't think there's ever been a version of R-Type that's been a particular walk in the park. So. But I'm really enjoying how well this is playing. Graphics aren't the greatest I've ever seen on the Amiga, but I've seen worse. And it is quite an early game for the... Oh, God blimey, that was close. But I am really glad it makes use of the second button on joysticks and joypads that have 2 independent fire buttons. Ooh, bloody hell. Oh, a little bit slow down there. Oh. Oh yeah, damn right, I'm going to continue. Missiles, yeah, I remember them from when I played the Spectrum version. They don't seem to do the... Oh, crikey. God, how did I get out of that? No, I don't want that on my bum. Oh! Come on. Come on, come on. Come on, come up. Ah! But no, I'm really enjoying how well this plays. Oh, crikey, that was close. But as I said, like other versions of R-Type, it isn't easy. I don't know. I don't know if fact there's a. I don't know the way that those missiles aren't even going anywhere near those guns on the ceiling. No. I'm used to them actually going for guns when there's nothing else more significant to go for. So that takes some getting used to. Because on the Spectrum version and consequently the Amstrad version, which was a Speccy port, they absolutely do. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't think that touched me. I'll have to look at the footage again because it did look like that would have just missed and gone slightly over me. Oh, God, you really got to keep your wits about you in these R-Type games. See, look, they're not even going for that. Yeah, those missiles aren't very good in this version. They barely even have it. Oh, I remember this boss from the Spectrum version. Wish it was that easy to defeat in the Spectrum version. Yeah, animation's nice as well. Look at the smooth animation of that probe. Just got to wait for it to load the next stage. Not really sure about these graphics though. Mind you, this was around the sort of time when the Amiga was getting a lot of ST ports, so while I doubt we say much that this was an. Well, I don't know actually. I'll have to look at it and see if there was an ST port and how that visually looked, because this does look very ST-esque graphics wise. And that background's a bit of an eyesore. I kind of wish they could have stuck with the darker shade grey at least. I mean, obviously people would have moaned and moaned wailed if there'd been blank backgrounds on an Amiga game. I mean, in the case of the Spectrum version, there was a very good reason for that. The attribute limitations of that particular platform. So the limited background detail was okay on that platform, but when you've got a 16-bit computer like especially the Amiga, then it does. Oh! You get quite a few continues, when blimey, you will need them. Scrolling smooth. Music's pretty good, although I would have preferred it if they'd used some cleaner samples. They're a little bit, I don't know, something about the samples, they're not the greatest quality I've heard. They sound a bit too halfway between 8-bit and 16-bit, and they certainly don't make the greatest use of the Amiga's custom sound chips. Ooh. Not particularly keen on the proliferation of that brown colour in this stage either. Now that there's a bit of an ongoing joke about Commodore 64 games having a proliferation of brown, and and seeing this much brown in an Amiga game, it could be also seen as a bit retro for a 16-bit computer, even though the Amiga was still in its relative infancy at the time of this game coming out. But it does still play really well, even though it is balls hard. I certainly can't fault the controls, they're fine. Ah! One more credit. I doubt very much I'm going to get much further than this, because that's how difficult this is. And it's a little bit of an eyesore to see much against that background. And it comes to something when a 16-bit game has the problem of it being a little bit of an eyesore and a bit hard to see on-screen action. Again, with the Spectrum, that was always a challenge because of the attribute limitations, leading to a lot of use of monochrome. But when you've got a 16-bit title suffering from that, it does. But I'm glad that Factor 5 got the opportunity to do this version, because they have done some great stuff. I mean, they later went on to make the Turrican games, or at least, and yeah, Bad Cat was a bit of a misstep for Factor 5, for Rainbow Arts. But this is a good port. Very impressed. It plays really well, despite my my slight issues with some of the music's audio quality and some questionable choices of colour for the visuals. I don't even think there's much more I can really say about this. I mean, R-Type is an incredibly iconic game, and was pretty much raised the bar in terms of shoot 'em ups. Oh, darn it. That's a very hearty boss. Sorry, that's a bad joke. This is my last life, or my last continue, so this will be it no matter what happens, and then I'll give my final verdict and thoughts. Kind of a shame. I don't really know what else I can really say. I mean, there's not really anything I can say that I haven't already said in my reviews of the versions of this I've reviewed previously. I mean, obviously, unlike those two versions, which were 8-bit conversions, this is obviously a 16-bit conversion, and obviously 16-bit computers were more capable machines than their 8-bit counterparts, so they don't have quite the same technical limitations either. Oh God, no! I made that same mistake. So that's R-Type for the Commodore Amiga. Factor 5 did a good job of bringing Irem's 1987 arcade classic to the Commodore Amiga, certainly in terms of gameplay. Even allowing for the fact that it's balls hard, but then so was the original version. Didn't manage to get onto the high score table, unfortunately. Graphics, well, mostly they're good, or there are some questionable colour choices, as I mentioned, and they do look a bit ST-esque. And if there wasn't a ST version, I'd have to look it up to see now. Then it would make me wonder whether it was a port from an ST version. I don't know. At the time, I mean, I've just looked up. I can't find anything that says that there was an ST version. But either way, some of those graphics have some not ideal color choices given the Amiga's capabilities. And sometimes, particularly in that second level, the background was a little bit of an eyesore, especially with the proliferation of brown, which I don't think that colour really suited that level. I mean, there may have been some technical limitations when it came to the number of colours available, but I kind of wish they could have picked something a bit more interesting than that brown colour. Sound, well, the sound effects are okay. Some of the instrument samples are a bit questionable. I mean, they're not the worst I've ever heard, but I know that the Amiga can do better. But then this was an early title from Rainbow Arts, so it may be that they didn't have the kind of budget that they would later get in order. So which that could have restricted the kind of samples readily available to them. But the music on that intro screen that Chris Hilsbeck did, I did like that. That definitely sounded better than the music that's in game. Generally better quality instrument samples. Gameplay, well, I can't really fault the gameplay at all. It plays really well, and it's only really things like the things such as the second level being a bit of an eyesore to look at that make it a bit uncomfortable to play and see things. It's not like they blended so well you can't see them at all, but it would have been clearer if they'd used slightly darker shades of grey to put them further into the background and make them less of an impression to what you're seeing on screen, especially given the aforementioned difficulty of R-Type in general. But this is a very good port, and I'll happily give it 8 out of 10. Factor 5 did a good job, and I'm glad they got their opportunity to do it. I mean, can you imagine if someone like US Gold had been responsible for it, or Teatex, or anything like that? Yeah. It makes you shudder, doesn't it? So anyway, hope you enjoyed that review. Catch you on another one soon. Texie88 out.